Hello. Today we're going to look at how to create a Ethernet driver to communicate with a PLC using VTScada. This will set the backbone for you to acquire tags from a PLC or to write tags to a PLC. Basically, give you full functionality with this program. So, first thing we want to look at here is creating tags. So that's basically what we're going to do here first is create a tag that is sole purpose is just to establish communications to a PLC. So. We're going to click on the tag icon in the top right-hand corner. From this, we'll bring up our tag database. In our tag database here, we see these are all the default tags that are created in a fresh install of a new application, VTScada. Different alarms, different styles, and so forth. But these are all default tags, so we're not going to bother with that. So we have to create a new tag here in order to establish communications. So I'm going to click on the new button here on the bottom, making sure that I'm in the root of this menu on the left. So click on New. From this, we're going to select Drivers. And this will list all the drivers that are available to us in VTScada. The one we're looking for here in particular is CIP ENIP. So the CIP Ethernet standard, ENIP of course stands for Ethernet IP protocol. We'll select on that. From this, we're given create a new tag. We have to give it a tag name. We can call it whatever we want in this case, as long as we don't duplicate a tag used previously. So I'm going to just call this one driver1. Again, you can call it whatever you like. Area in this case, I'm going to keep it as a system area, or actually we'll call it PLC project. And description for this, I'm going to call this again totally arbitrary, whatever you want to put in here. I'm going to say Ethernet IP driver to PLC1. Okay, from there, I'll click on the connection. And the connection here, what we're looking for is the driver itself is not enough. We also have to explain what TCP port we want to go through. So luckily, we can create a TCP port on our own, just the way we did the driver. But following this method, VTS will automatically set up the correct parameters and correct tags to choose from. So we'll see the port's missing. So if we click on the tag icon here, we'll bring up a second tag browser. This one here will only allow you to create TCP ports. So if we click New on the bottom here, again, VTS is smart enough to know there's only one tag type this could really be. So we'll immediately create a new TCP tag window for us. So I'm going to call this one TCP port 1. Again, you can call it whatever you want as long as it's a different name. Area, we'll keep this underneath the PLC project. And description, this will be TCP port for driver 1. Okay. From there, we want to do connection. Okay. Now, connection here, things will vary from system to system in this case for the first field. That's the TCP IP address. So depending on which PLC you're talking to, here, well, I'm just going to use a generic one. So here will be 10.1.1.1. So that would be the PLC that I would be connecting to if I was connected to a PLC. So that can change depending on which one you're talking to. The second one will not change pretty much for any project you're doing with TCP IP. Now, it can change depending on router settings, but for the default setup, the TCP IP port that's registered for CIP for Allen Bradley is 44818. Okay, so once we have those two numbers selected, we'll say OK. We can now see that we've created our TCP port. Now this is still coming from the driver menu, so this is the one we want to select to associate with that driver. So we're going to say select. And now you'll see that this port is selected in the field for our initial CIP ENIP driver. And from there, we just say OK. And there we've created our driver for our PLC system. Okay. Now you'll see it shows up here in the grand list here of all of our tags because it's part of the system tags now. But what we want to do with this is we want to create tags, analog status, analog control, digital status, digital control, based around that driver. We want to link these two together. So what we want to do here is actually called create a child. And all the child is here is another tag that has properties from the parent tag, in this case the driver. So I'm going to I'm going to first click on the driver here in the list, then right click, and here I want to create new child. And from here we have lots of options. The one we're going to look at, one example I'm going to give you here is just a very simple digital status tag. So from this list, I'll look under digitals, digital status. Okay. This will bring up a digital status tag for us. Now I'm going to call this, maybe I'll call this pump status, which is a typical digital status type tag. And you'll notice because we went through the create a child process here, some of these fields are automatically filled in for us. For instance, the area PLC project shows up automatically because this parent tag was part of that area as well. Here with description, so again, totally arbitrary. Okay, I'll call it pump 1 status. Okay, and that will set the description. And we'll click the I/O tab. And here's another property coming from the actual child process is that we've already have our I/O device selected for us, Ethernet driver. If you just created the digital status tag by itself without doing the create child process, this would be left blank and we'd have to fill in the blanks. Okay. Now I'll warn you here, if you're online with your PLC, this will look slightly different here. I'm not connected to a PLC here physically at my desk. If I was connected to a PLC, what you would notice is in this area here that we just around the bit 0 address here, we would have tags. And that's a good indication that we have connection to a PLC. If you don't see the term tags there, that means you do not have connection with that. Okay? So if you are online with it, you can select this and go directly to the tag list that's in your live PLC. If not, if you're not connected, you can still enter values in here if you know what the address is going to be. So if I say status 1, that would have to be the name of a tag in the controller tags inside my PLC. So I'm going to say that. I'm going to change the scan rate here just a little bit faster to 0.1 to give us a more refresh rate. And I'll say OK. Okay. Once we do that, you'll notice that there'll be a new folder here created on the right with the driver 1 pump status. This does a couple things for us. This organizes things quite nicely for us, and it also makes it quicker for us to create tags under here. So if I want to create tags now, just child with using that driver 1 for the entirety of the project, all I have to do is I can still go right click, say new child, or I can highlight the folder here, driver 1, and say new, and it will automatically create a child from that. Let's make an analog status in this case. So when I say analog status, and you'll see again with the PLC project, we'll take the parent's properties, I'll call it, I don't know, level. And same is true for the I/O as well. So we have our Ethernet driver automatic set up for us. Again, I'm not connected to a PLC. If I was, I would see a button here for tags that would allow me to pick and choose all the addresses that I have for my device. Okay. So that's the start to get you talking back and forth between your PLC and your VTScada. I hope that